My name is Andrew Dix. I am the founder and CEO of Crowded Media Group. We are the publisher of Crowdfund Insider and some other domains. We cover the full stack of fintech, including online capital formation, blockchain, online lending, everything that has to do with fintech. And I am here today with Henry James, who is co-CEO and CSO of Fincross. And Fincross is a digital investment bank based on blockchain tech, and it's kind of a new concept, something that we haven't seen too much of. And so we see, as a news site, we see a lot of new and cool concepts that come in. People are constantly emailing us, releases, and they reach out and say, hey, we'd like to talk to you, sort of thing. The first thing we always do when somebody new comes along is we try and figure out who they are. We do a bit of a dive, some diligence on the people who are the founders, the people who are the investors, the advisor boards if they're there, where are they coming from, what are their background, and I think it's very important to do that. So in talking to Henry this morning, I first want to start off with, what is your background? Where are, did you just wake up, one morning and say, hey, I'm going to do this, or do you have like a deep legacy in finance? What did you do before you did Fincross?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My background actually is in trading foreign exchange. I've been trading in the hedge fund world in Monaco, London, and Mumbai for a number of years now, and actually that was my entry into cryptocurrency because the volatility of trading crypto.
You love that?
Yeah, we just love that.
Yeah, that's like a trader's dream. Yeah.
That was really what caught me on, and Fincross. There are two co-founders. I'm one of them, and really my fellow co-founder has really been involved in blockchain and crypto since 2011, and he started trading actively in crypto around the 2015 mark, and was trading very well based on his fundamental readings of the cryptocurrency market. And we paired together, kind of realizing that we were combining the best of a lot of technical analysis and his fundamental views on the market to trade very effectively in the crypto space. And so we decided, look, why don't we explore the opportunity of running an actively managed crypto hedge fund? And I said, I'd be really up for that idea, but we had to look for a license. I didn't want to enter this market in a way that wasn't supported by regulation. So we looked for jurisdictions, and Mauritius is a jurisdiction which has really paved the way in the regulations of digital assets. And today we are a regulated investment bank in Mauritius.
Okay.
And that opportunity came about was because we'd been identified by officials in Mauritius as being a good fit for actually bringing investment banking services using their licenses and frameworks to the world of digital assets.
Okay, so I want to get back to that in a second, but so you started off as a Forex trader, and then you started dabbling in crypto, and you killed it, right? You were making lots of money, I assume. And then you had your other co-founder. You guys decided to investigate the possibility of building upon this concept of blockchain-based technology. But you're a co-CEO.
Yes. And
your other CEO, Eddie, right? He's got an interesting background as well because he comes from a deep financial background. Can you tell me a little bit about Eddie?
Yeah. I mean, I'm the youngest guy in our management team. Our headcount today
That's okay. Yeah.
But our headcount is 34, and 24 of those are devs and data scientists. Where we are, building a lot of our own proprietary fintech. And as for Eddie, he is a global CEO, formerly at Societe Generale. He was a portfolio manager for them prior to that role in New York and Paris, focused on non-correlated assets. And especially as the hedge fund world was kind of coming about and booming in the early 2000s, he was really a driving force at SocGen and for them. So the fit for him within our organization is important because he has all of that banking pedigree that I don't have, for sure, and some of the other guys in our team. He understands risk and compliance and processes and good governance, and after decades of experience at SocGen and other leading banks, he's been invaluable to us. And actually, my relationship with him predates the company, so we get on very well. And my position alongside him is really to support him maybe more from the digital asset space and bring him up to speed and feed him all of the latest information on what's happening in the digital asset world.
So he came from SocGen, so Société Générale. It's the second or third largest bank in France.
Second, yeah.
Second, so it's a huge bank. This is big banking, and they have a huge presence in Africa. And he was a CEO for part of that. So this is deep old finance. And now he's moving into the crypto space. So I really think that drives a lot of credibility for what they're trying to do, because if you can attract a senior executive like that to operate a new platform, that's really cool.
Well, his words were, I remember when I went to tell him about our vision for the first time. We were in Dubai January last year, and I flew out to see him, and I said, hey, let's meet. And I said, I'm doing something that I need to talk to you about. And I said, I explained the vision of Fincross, a next generation investment bank, focused on digital assets, leveraging distributed ledger technology. And I said, be blunt, tell me what you think. And he is a very, very blunt guy. And he said, Henry, what you're doing is right, because traditional private banking is dead. Traditional investment banking is dying. The future of banking has to be digital and digital banking. And, just to give you an example, banks around the world today are still printing paper and rubber stamping stuff.
Yes,
you've got thousands of employees in back office teams doing this work and making a lot of errors along the way. So DLT is perfect for kind of improving the efficiency and the overall transparency of banks, right? And so that is really at the heart of what we're doing, trying to be compliant in this space, make this space mature faster when it comes to the financial services within the industry. And second of all, actually use DLT in a way which actually is improving the overall transparency of banking, because we can do that. We can issue Merkle proofs on the back of our distributed banking ledger to prove the reserves that we have on assets. So you don't just have to take our word for it and be concerned about that.
Okay. So I hear you on that, but I also wanted to ask you about your advisory board, because again, when I was reviewing your website, you had some interesting names in your advisory board too. So it looks like you've put together a really complete portfolio of people that can support and help guide you in this mission of transforming banking.
Yeah.
And what you told Eddie, right?
Yeah. The advisory board is pretty rock star. Our advisory board, and they're very engaged, and we've tried not to overlap in terms of the inputs that they can bring. So we have Loretta Joseph, who's probably in my opinion, the most powerful and influential person in the world when it comes to the regulation of digital assets. She's written regulatory frameworks in Mauritius, in Bermuda, in Serbia, in Australia. So she's a big force. And she's known by many of the top companies in the industry as an insight into what's happening in the regulatory space. We have the former global CEO of SocGen, Daniel Truchy, and Vinay Gupta. I am really proud that we have Vinay on our advisory board. Vinay was a contributor to the early 2015 release of Ethereum, and since then he's gone on to found a company called Materium. And Materium are filling the gap between the legal world and smart contracts. So producing effectively paper contracts that in a court of law, a judge will still be able to uphold a smart contract. Without the bit that they're providing in the middle, that probably wouldn't be able to happen. So Materium are filling that gap, and they're a perfect partner for Fincross. If you look at business like trade finance, which is reliant on lots of paper contracts.
Yes, it's faxes and paper. It's
just, and you can make this efficient on using DLT and then plugging it into a digital investment bank.
So it's interesting that you start out by putting a really highly qualified group of people to build an executive bench that has the capacity and toolkit to execute, and then you pull in people from a diverse group of financial sectors to advise you, guide you, which is really, really profoundly important. And jumping back to the regulation. So somebody says, well, I'm regulated in Mauritius. I'm like, okay, first thing I want to know is why Mauritius? Why not someplace else? And as we all know in this room, there's lots of jurisdictions out there today that are looking to set up a regulatory environment that encourages innovation in financial services. You know, you have Malta, you have Gibraltar, you have Liechtenstein, you have Switzerland, you have you know, Hong Kong, Singapore, and tell me about the process of getting regulated and being regulated by Mauritius.
Yeah, I mean, the regulatory process always takes longer than you thought, right? It will take, we thought it might take a year to run through this process. It's turned out to take 2 years. Also, the regulators move a little bit slower than normally they kind of may make you feel to begin with, especially with something like digital assets, which is extremely new. But, you know, Mauritius, what's Mauritius doing? Mauritius is producing extremely comprehensive regulatory frameworks for digital assets, and in my opinion, more so than any other jurisdiction in the world. To give you an example of that, on the 1st of March this year, Mauritius launched the world's first regulatory framework for the custody of digital assets. So actually now an entity can do that activity in accordance with a set of rules and regulations. Today, every custodian that does the custody of digital assets does it in a way that they see fit. That doesn't mean they're breaking the law, but it does mean that they're working in an unregulated space.
So it was a 2-year process, and you told me the other day that you made the decision based on, in part, by a conversation you had in London, right, with somebody who represented Mauritius. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the government officials, you know, were talking to us about what Mauritius's plans were. And Mauritius, they want fintech and DLT and digital assets to become the cornerstone of their economy moving forwards. They believe that's really the opportunity for them to grow as a nation moving forwards. You know, they are a sophisticated nation. Their background in banking, it runs for decades. They are the financial gateway of money moving in and out of the African continent. So a lot of investment is actually going into Mauritius right now from China, because the Chinese are wanting to deploy more and more capital into China, and therefore they're buying up banks and banking licenses in Mauritius, so they have a better hold on being able to do that. You know, you have some of the largest banks in the world with offices and hundreds of employees in Mauritius. HSBC, Barclays, and Standard Chartered, just to give some examples.
And you were the first to get this type of license, correct?
Not really. So we've applied for a traditional investment banking license.
Okay.
We received the approval for that license in November, but then the different element of what we're doing, let's say, versus other investment banks in Mauritius, is that our spin and our focus is on digital assets. So based on the new licenses that have come out of Mauritius, including this custody license I just mentioned last month, we are combining these traditional licenses with these new digital asset-based licenses. So for exchange, for custody, there's a whole host of them. And we're kind of hybriding them in conjunction with this traditional investment banking license. And that's key, because today, loads of funds around the world and companies that are dealing in digital assets are not getting banked. And that's a huge problem, which is stopping the overall growth of this whole industry, because there are so many great entrepreneurs and ideas being created, but they're being basically halted by banking facilities. So Mauritius is a leader in that respect and paving the way, because now these new regulatory frameworks have the backing not just of the regulator but also by the central bank, and therefore, and the central bank, if you pay attention to the notes and messaging from the governor of the Central Bank of Mauritius, is actually advocating for local banks in Mauritius, whether they are Mauritian banks or international banks, to start banking companies that are dealing in digital assets. So right now we're receiving, 5 to 10 companies a day contacting us just for our website, asking us, hey, can you help us be banked on the fiat side and on the digital asset side? The breakdown to that from and how we can deliver that need for them is being able to say, look, we are an investment bank. So actually, if you're looking for a commercial bank to take the custody of your fiat and deal with that, we will offer that to you, but we'll offer that to you via our commercial banking partners.
So, but your license, it's an umbrella license. You
Yes.
can do multiple things with that license. It's not a single license that you see in a lot of other jurisdictions.
Yeah.
It's like 5 or 6 different individual. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, absolutely. The ones that we intend on taking advantage of are, that investment banking license is an umbrella of licenses, including an asset management license,
Okay.
an investment dealer license, which is Mauritius's way of saying a broker-dealer license,
Which is a big deal.
an advisory license, a distribution of financial products license, which that means that we can be distributors of investment products and funds, let's say, in the space. So we're actively looking for, innovative and attractive products based on cryptos or on security tokens, let's say, or that are focused, let's say, on our industry. So let's say funds that are, whether they're VCs or private equity funds that are focused on investing in this industry. If we like them, if our investment team likes them, we can be distributors for them.
But you're also open to being regulated in other jurisdictions. So we had talked about the FCA, the UK Financial Conduct Authority, which just finished a consultation on crypto assets last week. And they launched it, I think it was in January, a few months, they get the feedback, and they expect to have some sort of publication or document produced within the next couple months, which will be really interesting. And there's a potential that's a precursor to creating a regulatory environment for people like you, or companies like you, or other types of trading platforms. And I'm assuming you'd be open to pursue that as well, correct?
Yeah, 100%. As soon as we can apply for, licenses that are of a similar caliber or better, and supported by comprehensive regulatory frameworks in other jurisdictions, we want to be the first ones applying for those licenses. And that's why we've gone to Mauritius, because we couldn't actually do what we're doing and what we're creating without, the frameworks that Mauritius has so far put forwards. We have looked into other jurisdictions, and we continue to do that. Our CEO flew to Switzerland to meet with FINMA, the regulator there, just in December, to find out, what's FINMA doing. And FINMA have kind of been forwards pro digital assets, then reversed it, and then kind of reversed it again, their views. So, we had that kind of clear indication from FINMA in Switzerland that nothing's happened yet, and so come back to us later. And so Fincross has a window of opportunity here to strike and to make a big impact on this industry because of its opportunity and unfair advantage of being a first mover in Mauritius. I think Mauritius has basically got a 12-month lead on any other jurisdiction around the world today. And it's funny because everyone's like, oh, okay, well, how come we've not heard about Mauritius? And the fact is that Mauritius has just really kept tight-lipped about it. Until March, like I said, the legislation hadn't been brought into effect, but the regulator and the nation as a whole has been talking about digital assets since 2017. Mauritius was nicknamed Ethereum Island in April 2017, but it just hasn't really kind of reverberated much further than, let's say, the Commonwealth nations. Mauritius is part of the Commonwealth. It's a former British colony. Their corporate legal system is based on British corporate law. So just in our last newsletter, I wrote an article about a trend we identified last year to do with the harmonization of regulatory frameworks and the language being used by regulators amongst Commonwealth jurisdictions. And so, Malta, Bermuda, Hong Kong, Singapore, Canada, Australia, UK, these are all examples of Commonwealth countries.
Yeah, I dream about that at night, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. Yeah.
But slowly they're banding together, and I think we are going to start seeing an alliance form on a regulatory basis.
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Regulators.
Yeah. Okay, so you said earlier the future of banking is digital and traditional is dead. And for a traditional banker, that's probably not a good prognosis.
They know it.
But I mean, banking is a great way to make lots of money because you create huge information asymmetries and you charge people for a lot of inside knowledge.
They make money on your money.
They make money on your money, and I agree with you. Traditional investment banking needs to be disrupted. I think that there's an element of gouging there, and I think a lot of people do understand the fact that way of doing things at some point in the future is going to go away. So that's you. That's Fincross. That's what you guys want to do. You want to be the investment bank killer. You want to challenge Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, I mean, look, but Goldman Sachs is interesting because Goldman Sachs are investing into companies in our industry, right? So
Right.
Goldman Sachs got a position in Circle. Julius Baer's taken a position in our peers, SIBA in Switzerland. We are now in conversations with tier one banks around the world and in discussions of partnerships and positions with that, for them to take a position in us. So, we're not going to be big enough to compete with these banks. And so I guess, the exit game for us will be that we will we'll be acquired by one of these major banks. That's what I think is going to happen, and they're going to have to do that to stay ahead. It's too early for them to kind of jump into crypto in a big way right now. I think any kind of link to do with what they're doing in the crypto space is just really an effort to grab headlines. They might be doing some things, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not important to them. And the reason for that, I think, is that the market's not big enough. And also, on a regulatory side, they can't really go anywhere because they don't have the regulatory frameworks to do more than what the kind of activity they'd like to do. So they're waiting for more legitimacy. They're waiting for more adoption. And to those of you that were here before, and Tim Draper was speaking, it's only a matter of time before we see more adoption of cryptocurrencies and security tokens. When we get to that kind of tipping point, that the banks can really come in and not risk, incur reputational risk or incur potential fines for making mistakes in this new industry, as far as they're concerned, then they'll come.
So you're going to be onboarding clients soon, correct?
Yeah, the goal is for us to start onboarding clients for the first time this quarter.
And so what type of clients are you going to be onboarding? Are you going to be doing issuers for primary issuance? What are you looking to do?
So, Fincross is made up of 3 divisions. Corporate investment banking, obviously focused on corporations that are looking to enter maybe the security token market space.
Okay.
Or to run instant settlement financial applications on top of our distributed banking ledger and protocol.
And you built that in-house, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And then on an investment management side, it could be fund managers that are in our pipeline that want to be dealing with a more institutional entity to operate in the space, all the way down to intermediaries, family offices, and individuals. The cool thing about the license that we have obtained in Mauritius, when we think about investment banks, we normally think that that's a company and made to serve the elites or for institutional investors, but we're able to onboard a client with as little as a deposit of $5,000. So that's really going to shake things up, and it's again another illustration of how Fincross is pursuing this kind of next generation investment banking model.
So you're going to be holding deposits?
Yes.
Okay.
Digital assets. We will be a regulated custodian of digital assets. We'll apply for that license soon. And on the custody of fiat and traditional asset stocks and
right.
bonds, that will be custodied by our commercial banking partners.
Okay. All
so
right.
From our tech stack, we've been developing a core banking software for digital assets that will integrate with the traditional core banking softwares of the commercial banks that we're working with. And actually, we've received a lot of interest to white label that solution with other banks around the world.
So what type of customers, clients are you onboarding now? Or are you looking to onboard? I mean, do you have a huge pipeline? Can you throw out any names, or is it top secret?
Yes, there's quite a breadth. We have a $300 billion asset manager out of Asia that want to have access to buying security tokens. They've also approached us about tokenizing some real estate products for them. They want their demographic of clients really does focus around Hong Kong and mainland China,
okay.
Taiwan, and they're very interested to buy real estate in the States, and that's quite difficult for them to do that. They've been doing that over many years now, especially here in California as well, and that's getting harder and harder for them to achieve. Now, through security tokens, there are ways emerging channels for them to actually do that in a different way. So that's one good example. We have hundreds of individual clients from our networks as former backgrounds, investment management, investment banking, that want to on board with us. And most critically and most exciting, I think, for us are the fund managers. Fund managers that have mandates to buy security tokens, or fund managers that are actively trading, the cryptocurrency markets.
Okay.
These are the guys that have bigger demands from an investment bank like us.
So you told me the other day, you said once you see leverage on a security token product, this market is going to boom.
Yeah.
And because you're a trader, I mean, you probably get very excited about the concept of leverage. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, I leaving aside leverage and kind of derivative products, I think the security token market is going to be absolutely huge. You know, I'm quoted often now for saying that the security token market will dwarf the size of the cryptocurrency market. I think that's an absolute fact. So
how long out? Are we 5 years, 10 years?
I have been making a prediction recently. I'm saying by the end of 2022,
okay,
we will actually see the security token market overtake the size of the crypto market. It's a prediction. Don't hold me to it, but that's...
No, we're going to hold you to
but
it,
I'm,
man.
Now hold me to it, fine, hold me to it. But we're making that prediction for ourselves. As we're planning the strategic roadmap and our commercial strategy, how we're going to kind of grow fast enough to deal with the demand. Right now, we have more demand to tokenize projects and to launch STOs than we could possibly dream of handling. So now it's a focus on looking for the quality products. And so now, as we then soon see derivative products being launched on top of security tokens, we're going to see leverage of 3, 5, 10x, let's say, and this market is going to boom. Honestly, it's going to be absolutely huge.
So we're running out of time here. Do you have any competition? Is there anybody out there in this space? I think you mentioned SEBA that they're trying to do the same thing as you, or they want to do the same thing as you. Because I know there's lots of people out there that are doing bits and parts of this, but you're kind of pulling the whole, investment banking stack together. Is there anybody else out there that's doing the same thing?
Strictly speaking, the same thing, no. But there are many groups that have the potential to do if they wanted to. So Galaxy Digital, Diginex in Hong Kong. These are examples of guys that have definitely got the potential to be building proprietary fintech and incorporating it more into their business than they are today.
All right, excellent. So we're out of time. Please give a big round of applause to Henry James of Fincross. Thank you very much.